Okay, in this video, we will talk to you about some key points regarding the acid-producing cell. We call it parietal cells, which is located oxyntic gland of the stomach. There are some key points for the parietal cells. The first, parietal cell usually produce hydrochloric acid. So this kind of HCl is secreted by the parietal cell, and this kind of activity actually is active energy-dependent processes. Recall in history class, you will remind that the history teacher will give you some electronic microscope photos, which show you the parietal cells, actually a lot of mitochondria in the parietal cells, which indicates that the mitochondria will produce a lot of energy to support the activation or the events which is carried out by the parietal cells. Okay, let's see the left figure. This figure shows you the transport processes in the parietal cells. Actually, the hydrogen ion actually is pumped by a protein. We call it potassium hydroion HPase. This protein plays an important role for hydrogen ion and hydrochloric acid secretion. Then people will ask, what is the driving force for chloride ion secretion? Okay, actually the bicarbonate chloride exchanger is the driving force for chloride secretion. Then people will ask me, where is it come from? The bicarbonate, where is come from? Bicarbonate. Actually, bicarbonate is come from hydroxide and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide and hydroxide ion form bicarbonate, which is catalyzed by an enzyme we call it carbonic anhydrase. Then people will continue to ask me, how this kind of bicarbonate come from? How this kind of formation? Actually, every time when you extrude one hydrogen ion, you will generate one hydroxide ion. Once the hydroxide ion formation forms, it will increase the pH value of the cell. Then, actually, the cell will let the CO2, carbon dioxide, enter the cell and then neutralize the hydroxide ion. Then, and the function of the carbonic anhydrase, then the bicarbonate is formed. So this is the way how bicarbonate concentration in the cell is increased. But since bicarbonate concentration should not be increased dramatically, so this bicarbonate ion will move out of the cell by this exchanger. Simultaneously, the intercellular space of the chloride ion will move by the exchanger and into the cells. Once chloride ion is in the cells, it will go out of the cell into the luminous surface by a specific channel. We call it the chloride channels. This is how, in the parietal cells, hydrochloric acid is secreted by these parietal cells. Okay. You also need to pay attention to one point is, since a lot of the bicarbonate is accumulated in the cells, eventually it will go out of the cell and go to blood. So it looks like in the gastric veins, the high concentration of bicarbonate will lead to the blood in the vein of the gastric stomach. It will increase the pH value of the gastric veins. Because for the renal physiology, you will learn if a person has some vomiting issue, it will lead to loss of the hydrogen chloride acid. So eventually will lead to metabolic alkalosis. This you need to remember when we talk about the renal physiology. Okay, for the second point, I think the higher ion is pumped across the apical membrane by the higher potassium ATPase. That's why people design a lot of the inhibitors trying to block the pump. This inhibitors now is already used for the clinical treatment for excessive acid production disease, such as gastrinoma, duodenal ulcer disease, something like that. Two kinds of the proton inhibitor is designed and widely used. The first we call it proton pump inhibitors, namely PPI. The second is we call it potassium competitive acid blocker. We call it PCAB. Okay, for this one, when we learn some pathophysiology of the GI disease, we will mention in that detail. The last one, I want to let you know that since regulation of gastric acid secretion is a complex way, and the parietal cell actually is a major target of this kind of regulatory system. So in the neural, endocrine, and the paracrine pathway, all will act on parietal cell, try to modulate the function of parietal cell and eventually modulate the gastric acid secretion from the stomach. Okay, thank you so much for listening. See you next time.